This is the one thing I do every year, throughout the whole year, that gets a lot of traction and builds community. What is that? Find out in a second. No matter where you are in the world, fantasy sports is probably the most popular thing that you can do right now online. Whether you're in America playing fantasy football or baseball or soccer, or you could be all over the world playing fantasy football, the European football, soccer, or you could be playing fantasy cricket. There are so many fantasy options out there for you to play in regards to sports that help you build community in your ministry. In fact, I've done this a number of times when I've started a new ministry. That one of the first things I do is to start a fantasy sports program. But it doesn't have to always be tied to sports. There are other fantasy online community building options that you can draw people into. For instance, in America, we've got The Bachelorette. You could do a Survivor Bachelorette series where you're wondering who's going to be voted off next. Same thing with the Bachelor program. There's programs all over the world that you can play these cool online games with that really helps you develop community in your ministry. And here's how it works. You simply throw it out to your ministry group, whether it's online or in person. You can say, hey, who wants to be involved in a fantasy football program? You get their names, you get their emails, and even if it's someone who's not directly involved with your ministry at that moment, you include them anyways. Why? Because you want to encourage people to be a part of your ministry. Maybe they don't know exactly what it is your ministry or church is about, but through this group, you can build a camaraderie with each other that may help someone who doesn't believe in God think, this is a church group? Or this ministry believes in God? Maybe I might want to check this out a little bit more. So it's a great way to introduce people to what your ministry and your church is about. It also helps to build friendships. I developed a group over 10 years ago, and we had 10 people join in. Of those 10 people, we still have about 7 of those guys still connected to each other each and every week because we have that friendship, that commonality of fantasy football. Well, now we have the commonality of God, and we continue to encourage each other in our relationships with God through that. So it's been an awesome way for me to minister to people over the course of time. Again, over 10 years, I've been ministering to people through this fantasy football league. But the key thing is that you have to stick with it. If you want to have this league build relationships, build friendships that will ultimately lead people to Jesus Christ, then you have to be consistent at it. You can't just set up the league and then never check it or never post anything. Part of the deal is the interaction that you have each and every week in your fantasy football league. So I want to encourage you to find something that is common in your ministry and the people that are coming to your ministry. Is it a sport or is it a television program that people watch and are really interested in? If so, start a group that you're talking about it or doing a fantasy football program, because it can build that community that can last for a really long time, and it can really give your ministry a kickstart that it needs to get more and more people involved. That's why I believe that playing fantasy sports, whatever sport it is so important and vital to having in your ministry so that more and more people can discover who God is in a very indirect way, but it can lead them to so much more than just sports. That's all I got for you today. Thanks for joining me. Take a minute and share below, how have you seen fantasy sports really help your ministry at all? What has been a pro? What has been a con? What have you done to really kickstart your ministry through fantasy sports? So take a minute and share below that. Also, make sure you go to ymsidekick.com. I've got fresh content all week. And make sure that you check out the podcast on Wednesday. It's a brand new episode. All right, thanks for joining me, everyone. I hope you have a great fantasy football season this year.